Hey y'all. Uh-oh. I don't know where my document camera went. Okay. There. Now, I think I'm back. Okay, let's make sure. I need to zoom out just a little bit. Okay, today we are talking about random samples. Random samples. So you have your note outline, and we've been talking about some statistics, the mean absolute deviation, and scatter plots and trend lines. And so a random sample comes from a survey. So let's take some notes on vocabulary first. Random samples. A survey, and I'm sure you've all probably taken surveys. What I love to do when I go eat at Chick-fil-A, sometimes on the receipt, it'll say, if you fill out the survey, you get a free chicken sandwich. And I always fill out those surveys, and then I get a free chicken sandwich. And then when I'll go back to Chick-fil-A to get my free chicken sandwich, sometimes I'll get a survey. Or from Sonic, I'll get a survey, and then if you fill out the survey, you get a free drink from Sonic. So I fill out surveys. But a survey is a method of collecting information. A survey is a method of collecting information. So now, because we live in the 21st century, most surveys are done electronic, but you could still have like a paper survey. Then there's two more words. The population is the group being studied. The group being studied, and a lot of times researchers will want to study. Is this light on? Let's see if I can turn this light off. Okay, I don't know if that really helped. Researchers will want to study a large group. I forgot to start my timer, so it's going to be like a minute off. And so the big group that's being studied is called a population, and a smaller part of the population is called a sample. The sample is a smaller part of the population. If you were to talk about samples of food, it makes me think of Sam's Club. Maybe Costco does it too, but I love to go to Sam's Club, and they have these samples, and they take a little part of the big bag of food or a little slice of the pizza or whatever they're cooking, and they cook it, and then they give people little samples. And so it's part of the group. It's part of the population. So a sample is a smaller part of the population, and a population is the group that's being studied. So today we're going to talk about what makes a good sample, what makes a bad sample, and the difference between a sample and a population. So you have this chart. For each survey topic, determine which set represents the population and which represents a sample. So here's the survey topic, cell phones at school. Most of you have cell phones. Most of everybody above 14 or 15 has a cell phone. So if we were going to survey a group, the students at a high school or the sophomore class at a high school. So we're trying to survey. I need to see if I can move that a little bit more. Okay. We're trying to survey cell phones, a group. We're trying to study a group, the population, cell phones at school. So the students at a high school would be the population because that's the large group that we're trying to study. And the sophomore class, this is a smaller part of the population, so this would be the sample. All right. Favorite pizza toppings. I love pizza. In a questionnaire we did one time, it said, if you could only have one thing for the rest of your life for dinner, what would it be? And mine would be pizza. I could have pizza every day. Some people pick hamburgers, some people pick Mexican food, Chinese food. I'd eat pizza. So we have two groups. The customers at a pizza shop in the city, the residents of the city. So one of these is the group being studied, and one of these would be a smaller part. So the big group would be the residents of the city. That's the population. And then the customers at a pizza shop would be a sample. Now, do you think the customers at a pizza shop like pizza? Probably, but not everybody in the city is going to like pizza. So here's our topic, building a new park. Do we want to build a new park? Do we not want to build a new park? What do we want to do about a park? And we have two groups, voters attending a town meeting, all registered voters of the town. So keyword here, all registered voters. This is the voters attending a meeting. So this is our sample because it's a part of all registered voters. So there's a little bit about the difference between sample and population. So you try this one down here. Read it, pause it, and then press play when you're ready. Emilio wants to survey students in his school about their favorite pizza toppings. Okay, so favorite pizza toppings. Describe a possible sample Emilio could survey to represent the entire school. So this one is actually asking for you. What could be a way that he could survey a sample to represent the entire school? He wouldn't just ask his friends, because just Emilio's friends, his small group of friends, doesn't represent the whole school. Now, he could, there's not just one correct answer. I probably would say, like, he could pick random students from each grade level. And we don't know how many students go to school. We don't know how many grades we're talking about. This is just very vague. He could pick random students from each grade level. That way he's getting a representation from each. He could also pick every 10th student who walks into. So here we could say into, at first I was going to say the library. Now the problem with saying walks into the library is maybe not every student goes to the library. We could say every student that walks into the boys' bathroom. Now first of all, gross. But second of all, if you only do the boys' bathroom, you're only getting boys. So I would say everybody that walks into maybe the cafeteria, or whoever walks into the gym, because more than likely a lot of students are going to be going in and out of the gym. But we want to get a sample that represents the entire school. So those are just some examples. You might have a different answer, and it still could be correct. Okay, so one problem with samples is they could be biased or unbiased. So let me just give you a quick definition of biased or unbiased. Sample. An biased sample has one or more parts of the population are favored. And I'll explain what that means in just a minute. One or more parts of the population are favored. And favored meaning they have a bigger, better chance, more likely chance to be surveyed than just kind of random. So a biased has one or more parts of the population are favored. An unbiased sample reflects entire population. It reflects the entire population. Not one side is favored more than the other. For example, when I just said the boys' bathroom, that would be biased because that favors the boys. That's not an unbiased, that would be biased because the girls don't have the same chance. It doesn't accurately reflect the school unless you go to an all-boys school, but Emilio probably doesn't. So we're going to talk a little bit about biased and unbiased samples. On the back, I gave you two big charts and some descriptions and examples of biased and unbiased. And then over here, we're going to write some questions for you to think about when you're trying to help decide, is this biased or is this unbiased? So the two types of biased are either convenience or voluntary. Now these are biased. That means these are not good. The biased are not good, just in case. A convenience sample is easily accessed. Circle that word, easily accessed. For example, on here we said customers that are at a pizza shop. That would be a convenience sample because you're wanting to ask about pizza and you're already at a pizza shop. So that wouldn't accurately reflect the population. Convenience sample is just going to be the easiest to get. A voluntary sample are asking for volunteers. A voluntary sample involves those who only want. So circle the word want. That is going to be biased because if you're asking people who want to do it, it's not going to accurately reflect the whole population. So we want to try to stay away from convenience and voluntary. And then here are examples. The The reason, so this one, to represent all customers, the first 20 customers through the door. That is a convenience sample because if you just pick the first 20, there are going to be people who want to be there the most. They're the first through the door. Maybe they were lining up outside. That doesn't accurately reflect the whole population of customers. What about the people who come at the end of the day? They have to work all day and they go to the store at the end of the day. Customers who wish to express their opinions complete an online survey. So like I was just saying how I do the surveys from restaurants because I want the free thing. That doesn't accurately reflect customers because I want to do it so I can get a free thing. I'm going to probably give them good grades. Not everybody has a good experience. And so people who don't want to do surveys, they're not going to do them. So convenience and voluntary. Just looking at my timer. All right. Now, unbiased. We have two. A simple random sample and a systematic random sample. Simple random sample would just be like a computer just randomly chosen, or you pull tickets out of a hat or something like that. Each item or person is as likely to be chosen. So is as likely. Like it's just random and it's simple. It could be computer generated, it could be tickets, it could be sticks. Just it's everybody has the same chance to be picked. A systematic random sample, systematic meaning system, is going to be selected according to a specific time or item interval. And what that means is like every 10th student, every 5th student, every 3rd. So you're not randomly picking names, but you are systematically going, okay, every person kind of has a fair shot if they're walking through the door and you're picking systematically. You don't show favoritism. You don't favor one group over another. Now some questions for you to consider. Oh, there's the bell. Some questions for you to consider. What's the topic? These are just things for us to think about when we decide if it's valid or not. What's the topic? 2, who's being surveyed? Number 3, what type of sample? So what type of sample is it? Is it convenience, voluntary, simple, systematic? What kind of sample is it? And then is it biased or unbiased? So those are just things for us to consider as we go through these examples. We're just going to kind of think, okay, what's the topic, who's being surveyed, what type of sample, and is it biased or unbiased? Because that's what our job is, to decide if we get these results. I mean, as not just like this is a math skill you need, but as an educated student, as an educated person, if you're reading results, are the results you're reading valid? Is this a good survey? Because people will put a lot of data out there. And it's favored to what they want you to believe. And so they're like, oh, 75% of people do this. And, like toothpaste. Dentists recommend this toothpaste. Well, the dentists they ask are the ones that are sponsored by that brand. So, of course, those dentists are going to recommend that. So, anyway, okay. Example 2. To determine which food is preferred most, pizza, hamburgers, or chicken. Okay? The first 50 people walking into Champs, Chicken, and such are surveyed. 42 of 50 people surveyed prefer chicken wings. It was concluded that chicken wings are preferred most. Is this conclusion valid? So that's a lot of information. So that's why I gave you some questions. What's the topic? So the topic in this was preferred food. All right, that was the topic. Which food? Pizza, hamburgers, or chicken wings. Now, I love chicken wings. Give me some Parmesan garlic from Buffalo Wild Wings. I could chow down on some chicken wings. However, I love pizza more. Who's being surveyed? So determine which food is preference. The first 50 people walking into Champs, Chicken, and such are surveyed. So the people being surveyed are the first 50 at Champs and Champs Chicken. I'm just going to abbreviate. Those are the people being surveyed. The first 50 people at Champs Chicken. What type of sample is it? Okay, so what type of sample? Now, it's the first 50 at Champ's Chicken. It's definitely not random or systematic because it's just the first people. So it sounds like it's a convenience sample because they're already at Champ's Chicken and they're just taking the first 50. So this is a convenience It's a convenience sample. They didn't go out to different restaurants. They just went to one and said, all right, first 50 people, come here. And is it biased or unbiased? Well, because it's a convenience sample, that means this is biased. And since it's biased, is the conclusion valid? So my answer, these are all questions that we thought about. So my answer is it's not valid because it's a biased sample. It's a biased sample, and the reason it's biased is because it's a convenience sample. What do you think most of these people are going to say if they're eating at Champ's Chicken and such? They chose to go to Champ's Chicken, so they're probably going to say chicken. 42 of 50. 42 of 50. That's a lot. That's 84%. I do not believe 84% would say chicken over hamburgers and pizza. I think it'd be more even than that. So that is not a valid conclusion because it's a biased sample. All right, so let's do another one, and then we'll be done. The table shows the results of a random sample of students at a high school about their studying preferences. It is concluded that half the students prefer to study alone. Half the students prefer to study. Determine whether the conclusion is valid and justify your reasoning. So again, my questions to consider. What's the topic? The topic is study preference. Study preference. Who's being surveyed? Well, random sample of students at a high school. So high school students. It doesn't say what grade, it just says high school students. What type of sample? Now it says study preference, alone, with one friend, with two or more, and then the number of students. It doesn't tell me like what grades these students are in. It doesn't tell me anything. What it does say is it says random sample. It was a random sample. It tells me that in the problem. The results of a random sample. What, is it biased or unbiased? So let's look at our chart. And a random sample is an unbiased. Now, this is good. Unbiased is good. Yes? No. Because this is a random sample and it's unbiased, this is a good survey. Now, I still don't know if the conclusion. So, 1/2 alone. So, we need to check. So, 75 students said alone out of how many total? So, we need to add up. 45 and 30 is 75. And then that would be 150. So 75 out of 150. And that does equal 1/2. So the conclusion, this would be yes, valid conclusion, because unbiased. And the reason it's unbiased is because it was a random sample. All right, so in class, when we practice this, your job is going to be determining if the conclusion is valid. So you're going to be getting these questions, and the question is the conclusion valid? Is the conclusion valid? Was that a good random sample? Is this information valid? And that's what you'll be practicing in class. I can't remember how to... Oops, that was not it.